Rabbi Lezer Omer. Rabbi Lezer says, "Pakaka chalon." This is something which we've had several times, both in Bavli and Yerushalmi. You have a wooden slat which goes into a window, right? They didn't have glass, so they used to close the window with this wooden peg. So in order to put it back in the window, bismachu kosher v'toli, if it's hanging down, if it's tied on and it's hanging down, poking bow, then you can use it to close the window. If not, if it's just lying there on the ground, distinct from the building, so then in poking bow, you're not allowed to use it to close your window. Regardless, you can use it to close your window, no matter if it's fixed to the wall or not affixed to the wall. Period. New issue. Kol kisui hakelim, any cover of a vessel, sheish lehem beitz achiza, which has a handle. You told him Shabbos could be carried on Shabbos. Rabbi Yosef said, "When is this true? Kisui karkos. In other words, when do you need a handle? Only with something which covers a hole in the ground. But if it covers a vessel, benkach, regardless of whether it has a handle or not, you told him Shabbos to make carried on Shabbos. Ezu nagar nigror. Now, what is this kind of? We're talking in our Mishnah about the window stopper, but we also have a discussion. We had a couple of blot ago, last night and the night before. We had discussed what is a bolt which you can use on a door, and it says that bolt that drags on the ground, and therefore you can put it back onto the door on Shabbos to bolt the door shut. So I'm Rabbi Yochanan kosher afal pishlo eino toli. It has to be tied on, even though it's not hanging. In other words, it can be lying on the ground, but it has to be tied to the door in order to use it. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Moshcheni chilfei, in the Bible it's called ilfa. Drag me, verani nagar, and he showed me one of these bolts, Mishal Beis Rebbe, which was in the house of Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, kosher, which was tied on, aval pisheinu toli, it has to be tied on, but it doesn't have to be hanging in midair, it be lying on the ground." Rabbi Yochanan had said, "Asya yechidah dehacha." Our Mishnah, the Shitas Yochid, the Shita of Rabbi Eliezer, our Mishnah, which is the Shita of an individual Tana, is in our Mishnah, the Hacha over here, it's going like Kistama Tamon, like the Stam Mishnah Erevin. Because in Erevin it says there in that Mishnah about the bolt that you can only use the bolt if it's tied on and hanging down. Not if it's just lying on the ground. It's be tied on and hanging down from the window. So that's the opinion of the Rabbanon there in Erevin. And Ichidah de Tamon, the statement of Rabbi Yehuda over there, Rabbi Yehuda holds that even if the bolt is on the ground, you're allowed to use it. It doesn't have to be dangling down. That's Kistama Da'acha. It's like the Rabbanon in our Mishnah who say that even if the Pekaka Chalon is on the ground, you can still replace it into the window on Shabbos. It doesn't have to be tied and hanging. Rabbi Yossi boy, kumi Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yossi asks for Yirmiyah, Heich Avdin Uvda, halach l'maisa, what are we supposed to do? Amar lei, so he said, Mimada Mar Rabbi Yochanan, seems to be, from that which Rabbi Yochanan said, Moshcheni chilfei, Ilfo dragged me verani, Nagar Mishel Beis Rebbe, and he showed me the bolt in Rebbe's house, kosher afal pisheinu toli, which was tied on even though it wasn't hanging. Hadar Mara, this teaches us Rabbi Yudan, like Rabbi Yudan, who's the one who's machmir there. What do you say? No, like Rabbi Yudan, who's the one who's mako there in Erevin, who said that even if it's dragging on the ground, avdin uvda. Now the truth is, though it's not though we're doing like Rabbi Yehuda, it's not like our Mishnah precisely. It's somewhat like our Mishnah, but not completely like our Mishnah, because our Mishnah is matri, even if it's not tied on at all. Even just you can put back the window pane, even if it's just lying on the ground. The Mishnah in Erevin and Rabbi Yochanan holds based on the Maisa that he witnessed in the house of Rebbe. That's not enough. It would be no good. It would just be on the ground. It also has to be attached to a rope. The rope doesn't have to have it dangling in midair, but it has to be attached to a rope. And that's how Rabbi Yochanan wants to paskin here, okay? Asa Rav Chuna, and also Rav Chuna Shem Rishmuel, and Halach Rabbi Yehuda. Halach is like Rabbi Yehuda. Achia kosher bedelis. However, that means only that it can be dragging on the ground, but it must be tied onto the door. Rabbi Ami Omar. Rabbi Ani said, "Achei kosher bedelis bedavar sheyochel amido." Now it's got to be tied on the door. It's got to be tied on the door with a rope which can hold it. Now, once it's on a rope which can hold it, it doesn't have to be dangling down on that rope. It could be even dragging on the ground, but the rope itself must be strong enough to hold the bolt or the window pane, because otherwise the bolt or the window pane is not considered connected to the building, and therefore to put it onto the building on Shabbos would look like you're building a building.
Why would one even think that you'd have a string that would be strong enough?
Because you didn't want it to be Yotze. You didn't want it to be Yotze according to Rabbanan. They didn't do it for the actual practical, it's like a blech. You might think it's one, you just need a hecker. You don't need more than that. So therefore I have to say that it's more than a hecker. That's to actually be able to hold it. Okay? Says the Gemara, Nikayat Rebbe Lezer, the bolts of Rebbe Lezer's house have a cutter begemi. They were tied with a certain kind of rope. Nishmat, if it comes out of the rope, also it's forbidden to use the window pane or the bolt. Nikmaz, if the rope becomes loose. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Achab B'Shem Rabbanan said, "Midadei brush it's supposed to." So when you want to use the bolt of the window pane, carefully take it with the tips of your fingers. Why? So the knot doesn't continue to loosen and come out. In other words, you have to be careful, because once the knot comes out, you can't use this anymore. It's only as long as the knot is intact that you can use this. So therefore, be careful that the knot doesn't come out. Make sure that as you move the bolt or the window plane to put it in place, that it doesn't become loose. Okay? It's not Shumukta, it's Mechse Kabona. Yeah, because to put it back would be Mechse Kabona. The only looks like building. The only time it doesn't look like building is if it remained attached the whole time. Okay? Says the Gemara further. Kokisui Kalim. This is going back to Mishnah. Any vessel needs a handle. Rabbi Yossi said only is a vessel in the ground. Anything else, even if it doesn't have a handle, you can move the top of the vessel. So it says the Gemara, Abba Barkan, Rabbi Chia Barashi both said B'Shem Rav, Nei Rav Alach Rabbi Yossi, that the only time you need a handle if it's a vessel in the ground, not a vessel above ground. Okay?
Question.
Sure.
Define a keli.
Any container of any sort. Well, not necessarily. A fork can be a keli too, but here we're talking about a keli. There's something. Right. That's what keli means here. But you're right. Not always does it mean that. Sometimes keli just means a fork or a knife. It doesn't mean a container, but a utensil, right? But here we're talking about specifically a container. The keli what? Right, except according to Rabbi Nechemia, who says that you're not allowed to move them. That's what we learned last night. Okay? Hajlok perak kol kelim, new perak. We're finding afilu arba v'chamesh kupos. Oh, by the way, before I forget, next Monday I have a problem. I have a wedding I have to go to. So, if you can give me your phone numbers, I can reach you. So I'll let you know from the wedding how it's going, because it's at the Westin.
It's where?
Yeah, it's at the Westin. So I think I can leave after the first dance, but a congregant, the daughter of a congregant, Silverstein and Aberman from Buffalo Grove. Yeah.
I have to look in book of Erv in the front for the editor.
Yeah.
Is that the same Yosef Davis that's in Yoshua?
Which is it?
It says in the front, the editors, one of them is Yosef Davis.
Which book in Erv? No, it's not. No.
Okay.
You're talking about the art scroll.
Yeah.
No, it's different.
I'm looking at the...
No. He's not one of the answers.
They have Dan singers.
Yeah.
There's some...
That's a different. It's a common name. Okay. Next paragraph. We're finding a few arba v'chamesh kupos. Shel tevin v'shel tfu. You can move even 4 or 5 containers of straw and of grain, in order to make room for unexpected guests. In order to make room for students to sit and learn. But you cannot finish a whole warehouse. You're finding Truma Torah. You're allowed to move anything which is edible, such as Truma, which is Tohar, which is still pure, Udzmai, questionable stuff, which a poor person can eat, Umaitzer Rishon, Shnit Lo Trumaso, Umaitzer Rishon, which the Truma has been taken already, Umaitzer Sheni Vekter Sheniftu, Umaitzer Sheni Vekter Shetru redeemed, Turma Sayovesh, dried beans, because all poor people can do all this stuff. I've lost a table, but you can't move stuff which is still untight. Lost of my sushal, no nitro trumoso, nor my sushal which truma has not been removed. Lost of my susheni, nor my susheni. For hektish lo niftu, nor hektish which not been redeemed. Lost aluf, lost achardal, nor aluf for chardal, which is stuff which cannot be eaten on Shabbos. Aluf is a kind of spice, and of course you all know the chardal is mustard. He says you can move luf, because the spice is food for ravens. Okay, Rabbi Zir Shol Rabbi Yoshia. Most of the rest of the more for tonight is Chazorah. Rabbi Zir Shol Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Zir asked Rabbi Yoshia, come through this. Ray learned was also mostly Chazorah. Rabbi Zir Shol Rabbi Yoshia, come Shira Kupos. What is the measure of the baskets? They said Nilmod Sosamin Amafurish. So they said let's learn that which is not clarified from that which is clarified. The Tzina we learned over there. B'sholosh kupos sholosh saying in 3 baskets of 3 saw apiece. Tarminis alishka. You can take you take out the money from the Beis HaMikdash from the office of Beis HaMikdash where it was stored in order to spend it whenever you need to spend it for karbonos. So here we see that the basket has 3 in each, so we assume, which is a wild comparison, but assume also here that the baskets have 3 in, that's the standard measure of a basket. Okay? We learned over there, this is not relevant, but once we're on the topic of chashivas, so we get into another similar topic. We learned that if somebody takes some wine on Shabbos, the shiur is enough to dilute a cup. Rabbi Zio Shol Rabbi Yeshua Kamo Shiur says, what's the shiur of these cups? So he said, although we don't know explicitly, we learn it from somewhere else where it is explicit. The time Rabbi Chir said, Arba Kosa Shel Pesach, the 4 cups of Pesach, among the 4 of them, Yeshlam Revi'is Yana Italki, you spread a revi'is of wine. Why? Because each one you dilute 1 to 4 parts. Right? So you take the revi'is and divide it in 4, and then you dilute each one in 3 parts water. So the bottom line is that each cup is a quarter of a revi'is, and that's the minimum should be chayav on Shabbos or carrying out. Okay? Mal lifnos mina otzer b'sei kasera zeh. Can one remove from the otzer in this manner? Now this matter is machlokas. What he means by that? The carbonator says, can you take out in taking out these baskets? Can you ultimately take out, if the 4 or 5 are larger, can you take out all of your warehouse and get rid of everything in it on Shabbos in order to make the room for the Talmidim? Or do I say that would be too much of a chilul Shabbos, although not chilul deraisa, but a desecrating of the spirit of Shabbos, and therefore you can only take out somewhat less than that? Or the way you say, or that's the Korbanei Moshe's.
Large enough to be owned jointly, but too small to be off.
No, that's the whatchamacallit. That's the Korbanei's prat. The Bnei Moshe's prat was one allowed to start taking stuff out of the warehouse on Shabbos if one hasn't taken stuff from the warehouse before that Shabbos. Can you do a fresh start on this warehouse on Shabbos? As that looks like it's so obvious, like you're doing it for the purpose of the Orchim, and therefore you can only do it if you're ready to start in the warehouse before Shabbos. So here the questions are exact opposite. According to Korbanei, the question is whether I can finish the warehouse once I start it. According to Pnei Moshe, the question is whether I can start a warehouse which I didn't start yet. So again,
Whoever receives the land will be left.
Yishmina minado. Let's hear from Palikis. Everybody agrees that you cannot touch a warehouse. Also, but you can make a pathway and go in and come out. So according to the Pnei Moshe, it makes a lot of sense. And it means as you didn't yet start taking grain out of it, now to start taking that grain out on Shabbos, right? The only thing is that one is allowed nonetheless to walk a path into that grain. That's how Pnei Moshe will explain it. You can't start unless we start before Shabbos.
But the purpose of it is to allow for them to come in, right?
Yeah. So they'll sit on the haystacks. They'll use the path and they'll sit on the haystacks.
Well, we had something like this in the Bible.
Yeah, we had this whole pack in the Bible. Yeah. So, Istani Tani, Metali Sadimur. And some will learn that one is allowed to carry truma which got mixed up in chulin. Istani Tani. Those who said, Metalti, you're not allowed to carry. Amr Blezer says, Metalti b'meduma b'truma Torah. Was allowed to carry meduma if it's mixed in truma, if it's truma tahira, because truma tahira is of course suitable to eat. Umandamar aimetatlein the truma tmeya. He who says you're not allowed to carry the meduma is the truma tmeya, because of course you're not allowed to eat it. Okay. Now it says more further. They have a couple of typos in this line according to the Radals and Amaral. Uva also she'ain bok de lalos. Though this dichotomy between when it's Tomei or Torah is only if there aren't 100 to 1, right? But they're proportion of 100 to 1, so it cancels the Truma which falls in, right? It should be Sheyesh Bok De Lalos, those which have enough in order to cancel the Truma therein. Lo, there's not a question that everybody agree that what? What would everybody agree? Mm-hmm. If there's enough chulin to cancel the truma, what would we all agree? You can carry it, right? Because it's chulin, not truma. Looked like you had a tough day. Week is almost over. So it says where who is the one who says that you can carry it if there is enough lahalos? Rabbi Lezer. Even Rabbon hold, even if there is enough to be mala, you still can't carry it. Just because, so as Gemara says. Oh no, Gemara doesn't say. Oh yeah, it does. It's not. We learned Rabbi Lezer Omer Sah Shenofli Yisei Shalas. Rabbi Lieberman explains that. Oh, should have said Rabbi. Sorry, Lieberman explains that. No, I can't. I'll ruin my reputation. He said, I have ruined it by Masechta Shabbos, I guess. But the
fact you constantly refer to them.
what? Yeah, okay, you're right. All right, but yeah, Chayrim, that's right. His Lo Lechinam was he called Shol? From where we just had a Shabbos says we never paskin like Shol, right? So the same idea. All right. So he says that the pshat is, although the Radal says he changes the pshat, gives a different pshat, but Lieberman says that the pshat is that you can't, that according to Rabbi Lezer, when you pick up, since we say Seah Shanoflo, Seah Sha'olsa, it means that when you pick up one from the Meduma, remember, even if it's Batal, you still have to pick up one. That's the Din D'Rabbanan. So to pick up one, but since I say it's the same one which fell in, so it's not a new Maisa Hafrosha. It's not like separating Trumas and Maisas on Shabbos, and therefore I'd even be allowed to pick up that one on Shabbos. That's why it's okay to carry the whole batch on Shabbos. We're not born. They don't say Seah also he Seah Shenofla. They don't say the one which I took up now is the one which fell in. So therefore, when I take one up to give to the Kohen out of the batch, it's as if I'm doing a new Maisa Hafrosha. I'm a new tithing. So therefore, I can't on Shabbos I'm not allowed to do that new tithing, and therefore I can't move the whole mixture on Shabbos. Okay? Says more further. Rabbi Lezer said, Adam I made me'erev Shabbos. The person gets down from before Shabbos. And he could say, I raise the truma macha. This will become truma tomorrow. Now, as we shall see, this is obviously talked about by Demai. Well, truma actually not by Demai. I take that back. A person could say this should be truma laid tomorrow. It's gotta be Demai. It's gotta be Demai. Just a minute. Because we're going to use Brera later on.
I was going to say it sounds like it's
Yeah, it's going to be Brera. So it's got to be Demai, because by the Risos we don't use Brera. So let's assume it's the Trumas Meiser of Demai. That's what it has to be. So I'm right, Adam Oimei Erev Shabbos, the person could send Erev Shabbos from before Shabbos begins. Oimei says, Harezu Truma L'Macher, let this be Truma tomorrow. Rabbi Yisrael Ebun, Amer, Ein Adam Oimei Erev Shabbos, the person cannot stand Erev Shabbos, Voyemei Harezu Truma L'Macher, and say there's going to be Truma tomorrow. Now let's do that. Masnisa Pliga Rabbi Yisrael Ebun. Now the following Mishnah argues Rabbi Yisrael Ebun. What does the following Mishnah say? Mishnah says, "Looking tful yom." If you have, we had to just had this in Erevin and Bavli. Looking tful yom. If you have a container which is a tful yom, meaning it's not going to become Torah till tonight, right? Because tful yom means it's going to be Torah. You brought it to mikvah, it's still Torah till nightfall. So I have a container which is a tful yom. It's going to be Torah till tonight, and umilolo min hachavis meiser teva. And he filled it up from a barrel with meiser, from which the trumas meiser has not yet been taken.
It just dawned on me. This is another case earlier we talked about those. We thought it was unusual to have a harev shemesh by kalim.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, right. Where do we speak of? Was this speaking on the Bavli?
No, we spoke about it
in the Yerushalmi.
I don't remember where, but
because this guy, it says here on the side that this is in the Bavli. Things blur after a while. I've noticed that, particularly because the sugyas are so similar. So I don't remember when we had it. I think we had it in the Bavli, but in any event, so yes, it's talking about a case where the container itself is a tful yom. And so you get going to get Torah that night, and you put into it wine. You need to meiser it, but you can't meiser it tonight because tonight is what? Shabbos. So you have to meiser before Shabbos. Imama raise a truma l'macher k'shetechsha. You would say let it be truma tomorrow, meaning tonight. When it gets dark, I raise a truma l'macher. It becomes truma to when it gets dark. Imama raise a eruv. That's where we had a eruv tchumen. Eruv tchumen. That's what he had. Yeah. Imam raised the Erev Lo Amar Klum. Why is it not about Erev Tchumen? Because Erev Tchumen is going to Ben Hashmoshos. And when does it become Tor? Says a Kochavim. Right. So Imam raised the Erev Lo Amar Klum. So if that's the case, we see clearly that you're allowed to stand on weekday and Meiser something on Shabbos. Not like Rabbi Yossi. So what's Rabbi Yossi going to do with this brisa? So it says more pasal l'shiur. It says it's l'shiur, which in Aramaic is what? That's in Yerushalmi. But in Hebrew, what is l'shiur? In Aramaic, what is l'shiur? No, there is. B'di'evet. L'shiur is the same thing like b'di'evet. You're not supposed to do it. But if you did it, then it works. But the Evid has come in our parlance to mean something else. Means a lower level of halachic, what's the word? What? Yeah, it's kind of like the Torah, which means a lower level of halachic acceptance, or a lower level of halachic observance. But really, in the primary meaning of its terminology, it means something after the fact. Whereas were you to ask us to do it, we wouldn't let you do it. But after the fact, we say it's okay. B'di avad, which in Hebrew would be kishakvar asa, right? So the sha'avar in the Yerushalmi means the same thing as b'di avad in the Bavli. Okay? Should have pointed that out sometime in the past, but I don't know when we had it last. So in any event, so he says it's only b'di'evet. In other words, the Chatchila you certainly shouldn't say on Erev Shabbos and make something truma on Shabbos. But b'di'evet, if you did it, it works. Says Mara Boloni, V'atayim Rabbi Chia. Didn't Rabbi Chia say who's the editor of the Brisas, Omer. Omer means I go ahead and say l'chatchila, right? It's not im omar odom, if a person said that it works, but Omer odom, a person may go and do it, right? Omer gives permission ahead of time. So islach l'meim l'shavra, you can say to be the evidence, it's l'chatchila. Chaza bo Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Bun meyadov. So it says where Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Bun reneged. That's it. He threw in the doubt. He said, "You're right. It's quite clear that you can do it." Says Mar Maikadun. Taka, how do you do it though? It's a good point. You know how to take up Trumas Meiser on Shabbos. So how can you send Erev Shabbos to do it? So here comes the Gemara and says, Mikvar l'shefra shena should happen retroactively from the time that it's separated. So really, it happens now, right? Brera. Later on, I'll designate what's going to be the Meiser, but it really is taking place retroactively from now. Okay. So it says more Hagatzmecha. Now, normally Hagatzmecha is a challenge to the previous statement, but here Hagatzmecha is kind of an extension. Hagatzmecha shoysa truma tmeya shoysa truma tahira. If it depends, if he's a Kohen and he's separating truma for himself from the Trumas Meiser, so he can say mikfar, let it be truma retroactively l'chel chlena when I eat it, right? Because he's going to eat it, because he's going to eat everything, because he can eat the Trumas Meiser, he can eat the Meiser as well, because the Kohen is also a Levi, right? So, but he says, let it be retroactively at the time I eat it, that already was truma. Hagatz mecha. Now, what about, you might ask, how does it work? Imagine how it works. Shoysa truma tmeya, when it was truma, which is tummy. Right, if you have meiser which is tummy, so tummy meiser can be eaten, but the trumas meiser the rav cannot be eaten, right? So but yet if you make it, if it comes truma on Shabbos, there's a problem with carrying it, right? Because truma tmeya is muktzah. So how do you make it truma tmeya on Shabbos, even retroactively? How are you allowed to do that? You know, you're carrying something which is to muktzah. So it says more. He says mikfar l'sheni chena bezovis. Let it work retroactively after I have already put it down in the corner. Okay? So he says, I don't want to take an effect that it becomes truma until such time as I put it away, and because after I won't be able to touch it because it's muktzah. Okay? Says Mar Tani, we learn Metaltlin echo truma tmeya, ve'echo truma tmeya Torah, ve'echo truma tmeya. Wait a minute. Then we learned that you're allowed to carry both Truma Torah and Truma Tmeya. How are you allowed to carry Truma Tmeya? It's not suitable for anybody to eat. Rabbi Zera said, you know what this is talking about? It's talking about Tevel Sheyesh Olav. It's talking about Tevel of Meiser. Tevel means untithed. Untithed Meiser from which you're going to take Trumas Meiser. That you're allowed to carry, even though the Trumas Meiser inherent in it should be muktzah, right? Because it's not going to be suitable to eat on Shabbos or any time for that matter, because it's tamei. Nonetheless, since it's attached right now, or it's part and parcel of the general tevel, which will be mutter later on, even though it's tamei, because mice is mutter even when it's tamei. So therefore, we allow him to carry it on Shabbos. Okay, again, it's tevel sheishulav, which has trumas meiser incumbent upon it. Tani, mutzah tatlo, he's allowed to carry. Ketzaro, so what does he do in order to separate the trumas and meiser from it? No, so he looks at part of it, v'echol eats the other part of it. Tani, now, period. New issue. It's a mission not to carry mustard seed, because nobody eats plain mustard seed. Says we're not true. Tani, we learn metaltlin as chayadam bimnei shumachol yoyin. When it's allowed to carry mustard because it's dove food. Doves eat it. Okay? So there's going to be flaw in this. Gemara is going to reject this. Can you think offhand what the flaw is that and that doves eat it? It's a tricky one.
It doesn't have to be royal achilas, right?
No, it would be royal achilas behema. But what kind of behema? No. I knew you were going to say that. That was a trick question. No, it's not the chiluk.
Maybe he had a DAFCA program.
Has to be a behemoth who you are
A domesticated versus non-domesticated.
domesticated, right? Domesticated,
I thought by definition behemoth is domesticated.
but not not yoikim. Here, feeding, they're carrying the muscle because you can feed it to your to pigeons. Pigeons are not domesticated. Okay. There's a chatzav. You're allowed to carry chatzav, which is a kind of food as well. Poor, not a good food. I forget exactly what it is. So you're allowed to carry because of it's mineshu machal tzvain, because deer eat it. But it says chulus, you're even allowed to carry glass mineshu machal namios, because some sort of weasel eats it in order to help digest the food. Broken glass, right?
Because it's certainly not domesticated.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, that's what I said. Im kain, if that's the case, itatulos moros, then you should be able to carry large branches. Because elephants eat them. So obviously you have to draw a line somewhere. And we're going to draw the line between domestic and non-domestic. Shigamliel mati berluf. Shigamliel says you're even allowed to carry luf, as the Mishnah said, because ravens eat it. Now the Gemara brings us all to a head. Mara kayamin. What are we talking about? If he's got from that type, right? He's got a pet crow at home, a raven. I don't know what the difference between a crow and a raven is. Is there a difference? Yes.
Raven's a bigger bird.
Raven's a bigger bird than a crow?
Yes.
Really?
Edgar Allan Poe.
Do you compare a crow to a raven?
No. Crows.
He wrote the raven, he didn't write the crow.
The raven is a very large.
He wants to be a raven. He wants to be bad. All right. So says where if you allowed to carry luv and neshimachal or because the ravens eat it. Manachem, what are you talking about? Im b'sheish lamos. I mean, if he's got that type of bird or animal in his house, v'osami matzu b'shuk, and also people literally it's prevalent in the marketplace. It means that people generally own this type of bird. Everybody agrees it's mutter to carry food, which is food designated for that bird, or that cow, or that animal, whatever it is. I mean, if he doesn't got that kind of animal or bird, and that type of bird or animal is not prevalent in the marketplace, everybody agrees that it's forbidden. What this is what we're talking about. He's got that type of animal. But in the marketplace, you don't find too many of that min. And then, a rabbanamrim became a chain also min matzah b'shuk. Since there aren't that kind of animals in the marketplace, they aren't sold, so that means they're not domesticated. So therefore, Kamisha also Kamisha Ein Lo Me'os Amin. So Rabbanan say even if you own one, let's say you own your own pet weasel, doesn't help because Butler died call them. You're insane. We don't take you into account, and therefore since Butler died call them, so you carry the food for this animal. Just get rid of the animal because you're insane for domesticating it and trying to raise it. Okay, is that clear? So that's how he says. Again, Rabbanan came and chain also mean motu b'shuk, kamisha ein lo me'os amin. And since people don't normally raise that, you can't rely on it.
So you can't feed that snake on Shabbos?
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that have
It's a good question.
or hamsters.
Well, hamsters are more universal.
The problem with snakes is they only eat live
Well, probably it's for sure, sir. Because it cause him to transgress the Doraisa. Shvisas Behemto maybe even. So in any event, Okay, Rabbanan Mekevich also mean Motzi B'Shuk Mishalim also mean Rabbi Shimon Meir Kevich Sheish Lomi also mean Kamisha also mean Motzi B'Shuk. This v'him, it's as if it's prevalent in the marketplace. Rabbi Zir said Lo Asio Elo Krabich. I'm sorry. This next piece, Rabbi Zir is going on the next Mishnah. It was put here by accident. So let's read the next Mishnah. Chavili Kash. Rabbi said I'm running out of material for tonight. Yeah. Chavili Kash. I mentioned.
No, it's not too broad, Jim.
I know. No. I've got to here. Sure. That's too broad. I just mentioned before you came in, I need your phone number for, I think, just where you're going to be on Monday evening because I have a class I have to go to. So, I hope to be back by 9:30, but in case I need to call you, I will assume 9:30. The chuppah, I think is called for 7. The Kabbalah's planning at 6.
Well, that means 7:30 is the chuppah. Means the first dance. Then an hour and a half from the time chuppah ends.
Yeah.
9:30 will be the first dance.
We can go over there.
I think they had to stay for the first dance because it is a congregate.
So why is there
It's a weekday. It's cheaper. So, if it's an in-town wedding, it's much cheaper to do it on a weekday. Okay. Just do I on Sunday? No. All right. I am going to, by the way, once we're killing time, I am giving shiur 8 o'clock Sunday night, the mezuzah shiur for the Vad Mishmera Stam. Yeah, Rabbi Trusky was supposed to give it on placement of mezuzahs, but he has to go to a wedding. So therefore, I am giving the shiur instead. So if you see Rabbi Trusky in this week's Likutei Pshatim, it's not him, it's me.
Where's the shiur?
At Base Menachem Lincolnwood. That's the front door. I think we can ignore it. If somebody's smart enough, they'll realize there's a combination. Yes, that's right. That's the spirit. Okay. So moving right along, reading Halacha base. Chavili kash, v'chavili eitzim. If you have bundles of straw, and chavili eitzim are bundles of wood. Chavili is rolling other kinds of branches, the thicker branches. If you designate them for animal fodder, allowed to carry them on Shabbos. In lav ein metal, if not, you cannot carry them. One can put a basket in front of chicks, in order that they should be able to go up and down. If you have a hen which fled, you push it until it goes back into the coop. And one can grab the neck and pull young calves and young donkeys. Even in public domain. A woman can pull her child along. It's only if he himself can move one hand and one foot. Move a foot at a time. But if she's truly dragging him, also then it's also Rabbanan. Even though we hold Chayin Nosei Esatzmo, right? It still is in Issa D'Rabbanan. Okay? Even though we hold a live person carries himself, it's still in Issa D'Rabbanan. Okay, let's go back to that part before the Mishnah. Rabbi Zira said, Lo Atzil El Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Zira said, this is only going to look like Rabbi Chanina. What's only going to look Rabbi Chanina? So he says, the Amar said, Oili Moinu in Rebbe L'chamas Gror. We used to go with Rebbe to Chamas Gror. Now, what do we used to do in Chamas Gror? We used he said to us, Biru lachem chaluke avonim. You have to, if you want to use stones for tomorrow, and I think these are stones for the for wiping oneself. Yeah, smooth stones, right? So then you're allowed to carry them tomorrow. Now we actually don't pass this way. If you pass that, even if you didn't designate them, because they'll cover up brios, you can actually take the stone in the Shabbos. But he said they have to be designated. So our Mishnah seems to be going like that, because our Mishnah says if you want to carry these bundles, then you have to designate them for Machal Behema from before Shabbos. Okay? You see that in our Mishnah? It says dafka if they're designated to be animal food, if not, you're not allowed to carry them. So that seems to be going like Rebbe. So it's more Rebbe. Here it's different. Shukikisei. Now Ukikisei, the Radal says that here, it's a strange Radal, but the Radal says it means that here they need, maybe they would hold not like Rebbe. Like Rabbanan, that since it's to wipe yourself, you don't need designation. But here, since they're bundled together, it's like designation for something else. You understand? Now, it's neutral, doesn't require designation. But designated for something else requires redesignation. Okay? So here it's designated for something else. Now, what is it designated for? The Radal says it's designated to be a chair. Which is very strange because a chair is not also on Shabbos, right? So what if it's designated to be a chair? So the Bnei Moshe on Omid Beis makes perhaps more the bundle for marketplace for selling for firewood. So he said, I don't know what the derivation word kusa is, but he says it's designated for firewood. So therefore, it doesn't. You cannot use it on Shabbos unless you designate it. Again, because it was designation for something awesome, right? If it was neutral, you don't need designation letter. But if it was designated for Isser, then you need a counter designation for heter. Okay? Says more further. Taste of Rabbi Lozer. Rabbi Lozer asks Kasha, I don't Batini and Chabile Kash. Says more. Didn't we learn our Mishnah here? It says Chavile Kash, that the bundles of Kash need to have designation. So it says the Gemara, the Kash lavkin mefuzaru. Isn't Kash considered to be mefuzar by definition? Meaning that it's considered to be machal behema by definition. It's not considered to be left aside for firewood. It's considered by definition to be scattered. Scattered meaning your machal behema, so why need new designation? So that's really basically the end of it's a kash without any teretz. The more goes on out of something else, which is taken from Prakim Ago, from Parakira. Masisa pliga manda markom yuchad leisser osir. Now this is a sugi that way back in Parakira there was a machlokas between kolam yuchad and kol sheyichdo. Kolam yuchad leisser means anything which is generally used for isser. Kol sheyichdo means you designated it intentionally for isser. Okay, it's not just generally used for isser. So the following Mishnah argues on the Mar kolam yuchad leisser osir. How so? That anything which is generally used for isser is osir. It says there are Evan Shalpia Chavis. It says a stone which is on the top of a barrel. Matal Tita, no fellas, you're allowed to turn the barrel on its side and it falls. It's called Yuchad Leisser because there's a coin on top of it, right? Or a stone on top of it, I'm sorry. Bob Hashem said, no, it's different. He explained that case b'shochech where he forgot the coin. So it doesn't become a basis l'davar also. Why? Because the coin was not intentionally left there, the coin was forgotten there. And that's why you're allowed to turn the bait sideways, so the coin will fall off and then allowed to carry the coin. Could be normally something also left there intentionally, asers, but that wasn't left there intentionally. On the other hand, the Mishnah, our Mishnah argues, the Mandavar says, call, and here it should be sheyichto, l'isser aser. that only if you designated it intentionally for Isra is it also. How's our Mishnah argued? It says, you're allowed to put the basket in front of the chicks for them to go up and down. That's fine. But even if they went up on their own, that's the contra kasha, because we said only if yichdo, you designated for the asr purposes it asr. But here it says even if they went up and down on their own, it still is asr. How could this be? If you need to be miyachid, you need to designate for asr. This is not you were miyachid. The hens arrogated it for themselves, right? So it says the Gemara, no. It's talking about where it's a law, where the vessel becomes repugnant because the chicks are going up and down it. So even though you didn't designate for the chicks, it's still muktzah because of mius, because of repugnant. We learn Rabbi Yeshua says afilu say afilu tirkaf. This applies even if they went up on baskets which are relatively easy to clean. Say on tirkaf, I think they were smaller, and therefore they're easier to clean. So it says more islach lemeim or say of a tirkaf musinain. So can you say that say and tirkaf are repugnant? So the Gemara I think there says it's possible to say tir and tirkaf are repugnant, but it's really not directly relevant to our sugya. So the Gemara just brings down here shorthand. Okay. This is as far as they're going preparing. Should we try and forge blindly ahead to get to the end of the parak? Okay, let's go for it. One is not allowed to help assist an animal to give birth on Yotiv. I'm sorry, allowed to assist. You're not allowed to birth it, right? Like use the forceps. You're allowed to assist it. Okay? Corbinated says the Gemara will explain it. Of course, the woman you're allowed to mamish, birth her. You can call for a midwife makom even from one place to another place, right? Mechal Shabbos. I guess that's a tchum. But you can even be Mechal Shabbos by actual Chol Shabbos. Because the Tibun you can tie the umbilical cord of the child who's born. You can even cut the umbilical cord, and every necessity for bris milah can be done on Shabbos. How do you help an animal give birth? Maybe we have this in Babli too, if I recall correctly. You bring wine, and you blow it into its nose. Next time my wife is giving birth, I'll have to try this. You ring wine, and you blow it into their nose. And you put your hand below, and you get the kid. I guess it sneezes or something like that. It either gets inebriated or it sneezes, and it releases the child. And this also you can do. You take the animal's udders and you put them into the what? No, you're not allowed to yank. That's dosh. But you can put it into the mouth of the calf. You can't squeeze the udders, but you can put the udders in the mouth of the calf. Okay, one is also allowed to cause an animal to be merciful on Yontif. Also, you put a block of salt on its womb, and I guess it causes it pain. And and that reminds her that it's time to go nurse her kid. Okay. You can call for a midwife, replace space, like we learned over there. Not only can it's Masechta Rosh Hashanah, now he can aid him come michutz latchum in order to testify on the new moon. But even a chachama, even a midwife can come michutz latchum in order to help assist in the birthing process. Mechayel is a Shabbos. You Shabbos for the yoledes, for the woman who's giving birth. Shmuel Amar Osilam Madur, you can make for a fire. I feel b'kufas kamus, even if it's the middle of the summer, if it's necessary or she so desires. The koshenes the tabur, you can tie the umbilical cord. Kehada imsei Amsei the Bar Kapar, like the servant of Bar Kapar, Nafka Miyalim Shabbos, she went out to help birth on Shabbos. Asked Shabbos the Rebbe. So she went and asked Rebbe, Amar law, whether she's allowed to cut the umbilical cord or not. So a fascinating thing, Rabbi said, look what it says here. Amar law, so he said to her, don't ask me. Who should you ask? A midwife. In other words, the midwives have to paskin the shaila, right? Because it has to do with medicine. So the Rav has to have information from the medical practitioner in order for the paskin this one, right? Chachama, yeah. But that's in Aramaic it's chayasa, but same idea. Amar Lezer said, "Leika chaya." I don't got any midwife task. I'm the only one. Amar Lezer said, "Zili avdi kaminagech." Whatever you do in a week, they do on Shabbos. Amar Leika minag. I don't got no minag. She was being difficult, obviously. I guess she was an amateur. She never did it before. I don't know. So it says more. Amar Allah, so she said to her, finally he was cornered. She said, easily chatoch Rabbi Yossi, go cut the umbilical cord like Rabbi Yossi said in our Mishnah. Kini masnisa. This is the way to read our Mishnah. V'chol tzorchei chayo nasim b'Shabbos. Right? It says you can do all the necessities on Shabbos, right? So it says kol tzorchei milos in Shabbos, right? So we're saying that really it should say kol tzorchei chaya, right? Because mila is the next parak. Rabbi Lezer the mila is the next parak. This Peter Verga is talking still about the mother herself. Tani we learned hashulia azos. When you get out the placenta, so b'Shabbos Shabbos. Oh, so the Pnei Moshe says that on a weekday they put it in the ground in order to preserve it in a cool place. But on Shabbos you can't dig up the dirt. So on Shabbos, Ashirim, rich people, Termisol b'Shemen, they keep it, preserve it in oil. Vaniyim Tonil Sabor b'Tevin v'Chol. The poor people put it in straw and in sand in order to preserve it. Now, why do they do all this until after Shabbos when they're buried in the ground? Why do they do all this? So everybody buries in the ground. I guess this is obviously a school. It's to give the land collateral. In other words, it's saying to land, okay, don't worry, someday you'll get the kid. But in the meantime, this is enough. And don't come after the kid until the right time comes along. Okay? What? No, it's not Baba. This superstition is unique to the Yerushalmi. Okay? Yeah. Right. At first, it seems from the Karmei they're saying that the reason they preserve the placenta is for, nourishing the kid. But then it seems that it's for this segula that they used to do it. Okay.
They take hormones from the placenta.
They make shampoo from the placenta. That I know. Yeah. It has a lot of keratin or something.
One of the first generation fertility
was from
the placenta.
They preserve them nowadays because of
Oh yeah, they do that. They're taking the
for Parkinson's, isn't it?
No, they're taking it maybe for Parkinson's.
They implant the cells.
Certain types of leukemia. If there's a family tendency, so then when the child is born, they'll freeze the blood from the placenta and keep it in storage for maybe 20, 30 years in case the child
needs a transplant.
Needs a bone marrow transplant.